supreme over the All God that we've been seeing so far in Challenger. But let's get into this champion select. The first banned champion will be Morgana from Team Dignitas EU, and Overclockers, what will they ban out? Expecting something against Senkooks. Senkooks was talking to me and he said a salty pick is coming. I don't know what a salty pick means, but we'll see if he brings it out.
From talking to Senkooks, I really never know what he means by what his picks are going to be, because there's no doubt about it. The guy is talented. You can see his Zia target band against him not going to be available. But he does like trying a lot of things in mid lane. It's a really interesting one. He's got a wider champion pool than a lot of people give him credit for. You know, what is a salty pick? That's what I want to know.
Gangplank maybe? I don't know. Like Fizz? Saltwater fish? Who knows? Lee Sin will be the ban from Team Dignitas in Condi-san. That was banned out last week. He's just a Lee Sin player coming in from solo queue. Sivir now aims towards Kobe, so a little harder just to run Maokai or a tank in top lane with Sivir and just run at you. And Gragas as well, so that will be taken away. Ryze actually banned out on the blue side this time, so Wonderware doesn't want to play it, and doesn't want Coupon to play it either. Yeah, there's certainly less of a priority now on Ryze, unless you feel very strongly about running the Ryze with kind of a poke composition, where you're looking to have some AP damage with an AD mid laner coming out. So I wonder, will this be a Kalista ban coming out from Overclockers? Otherwise, it's a fairly easy first pick for Team Dignitas. Now, we're Team Dignitas listening to Niels. Will it be a Corki first pick? Way.
Yes, it will. Okay, so this is picks and bans as you'd expect from LCS teams in Europe. Exactly that setup from the AD carry bans and picks.
Blitzcrank wouldn't be, but Overclockers, what will they take into this one? Alistair would make sense, saw it first pick last game as well as a high priority. What else do Overclockers really want to pick here? Take Fun, the Assassins are no longer on the board for him, so it's a little harder for him to pick those up immediately. Did see the Cassiopeia from him last week as well, so we'll see what he brings in. But they do have the red side, so they have the final pick if they want it for Take Fun.
I see exactly,
or
actually.
Not. Let's just pick the Victor early into.
This is the second game in a row we've had Victor first pick. That is really interesting, because it's not on my radar of things we were particularly expecting. We expected Wave Clear to go up, and Victor didn't get changed or anything on 5.12. It was quite strong, but that's a weird one, because we didn't see it yesterday either in the games. So we did see a couple of Victors, but not that early prioritized. I kind of wanted to go back to these AD carries. Weird that Overclockers would basically ban themselves into a tough spot here. Now they basically leave themselves in the situation of they're looking at a Lucian or a Caitlyn for AD carry. Meanwhile, Alistair over on the side of Overclockers has been locked in. That was first picked in our last game. First rotation here coming out for the Overclockers as well. Now Victor is really curious. I wonder whether it means we can still have a salty pick coming out.
I still want to know what salty means in terms of champions, but still, we're looking for these next two picks from Team Dignitas EU. It will be Fresh and Echo, the boy who shattered time. The question is, where is that going to be?
Yeah, we've seen it from Senkooks in the mid lane. We saw it banned yesterday, last week, against Senkooks in the mid lane.
Last week.
Adjustments to Echo, slight mana increase, slight little changes around passive damage down, which affect mid lane Echo. The scaling has been reduced. Doesn't affect jungle Echo, which is where we've seen a lot of Echo prioritized in the last week or so. Has a lot of utility. We've seen him build full tank. And that Thresh, Nisbet once again gets himself his hands on the Hookmaster.
Yeah. Give that to Nisbet every day. Had such a good game last time. I'm kind of wondering when teams will start banning out Nisbet as well, because he's really, like, that early game was all Nisbet. So
right.
We'll see. He gets that one again. Interestingly, Rek'Sai and Gragas untouched until this picking phase. Now that Gragas has been taken away by Overclockers, he's got 92% currently in the LCS, so he's still pretty highly contested.
Okay.
We'll be seeing Echo probably in the jungle, I would assume this one, and then here comes the Lucian, who is 0-9 in the LCS.
Yeah, Lucian hasn't exactly had the best time in EU LCS or just around the world in general.
NA isn't doing super well.
Yeah, NA the same, just not really finding his groove, and he certainly is a second-tier AD carry. Corki kind of sits in the middle between Sivir, Kalista, and then the rest of AD carry, so Overclockers forced themselves onto this Lucian, so it has to work for them. in some respect. So this is a bit of a departure for Celiva. We've seen other champions played by him. We saw his stats earlier in yesterday's game or last week's games as Tristana being able to hold on, but that is a Yasuo locked in.
All right.
Okay.
How is that salty, Senkook?
So Echo jungle, Rumble top, Yasuo mid lane. You have an AD mid laner who is able to 1v1 pretty well, I would imagine, in Senkook's hands. Is going to be able to start pushing waves in once you get a static shiv, once you start stacking those Steel Tempests up. No solid ult kind of facilitation for him. Looking at a Flay coming out from Nisbet, so that's fairly difficult to get to set up, but certainly in Europe we haven't seen a whole lot of Yasuo just in general.
Yeah, we did see Alex Ich pick it up last week, but we'll see how that one works out. Okay, so last pick now coming in from Overclockers. It will be picked into the Rumble, into the top lane. That's a Wonderwear champion written all over it. It's just been picking that one up recently. Overclockers, if they do choose the Aurelia, it could be difficult early on into this one. And we'll see what happens. Okay, it is the Aurelia. So that's everything locked in now for Overclockers.
So this is basically the same setup that was being, or a mix of the same champions that was being played in game 1 from Denial. You look at the Alistar, the Aurelia. Victor was on the other side, Lucian was on the other side as well. So it's a bit of a mix of the two. Over on the side of Team Dignitas, they've now got a fair mix between AD and AP with that Rumble in that top lane. Rumble into Aurelia feels like one that Wonderwear is going to have to get significantly far ahead to really be able to do too much outside of team fights. That's something we're going to have to watch between Wonderwear, because this is Kuban's Aurelia. This is no normal Aurelia.
This is no ordinary Aurelia.
This is Kuban's Aurelia. Yeah, exactly. But no, Kuban known for his Aurelia. When it's available, he does like to pick it, so clearly comfortable in this matchup.
Yeah, Kuban doesn't pick it all the time, though. We've seen multiple times where it's been left open, including yesterday and last week, but he'll pick it into the right times. Picks it into the Rumble, which can be hard early, as you just stand there and get flame spitted, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. But yeah, he may need some help coming in from the Gragas, which will be picked up by Condi-san, maybe even maxing the E up there as well. Mid lane, we've got this Victor, again picked up very early into the picking phase, seems to be a challenger theme so far. And then the lower tier of the Lucian now coming out, hasn't found success in the upper leagues, but maybe in challenger it can find its groove.
So one thing that I'm really noticing here from the Team Dignitas setup is the jungle mid synergy here has a fair amount of crowd control, but there's a lot of intricacies to it. If you can't land parallel convergence and the Steel Tempest knockup, there's really no way of ganking for that. But we'll have to watch how this composition sits in front of towers and pushes it down using the Corki the later this goes on. On the other side, fairly later game scaling top side of the map when it comes to it. You've got the Aurelia. Lucian is going to have a fair amount of damage himself. Victor's in there as well for damage in the mid game too. So a really interesting mix of champions here in game 2.
Well, as we get into this one, tweet at LL Esports if you see any big plays using that hashtag CSBigPlays, and you could see your tweet on the show. And yeah, so far we've not had big plays as such from the first game, but yesterday you could just make every single time this bet throws out a hook, it could be a big play. Just have a whole list of them.
Yeah, you could have a massive list of plays Nisbet made yesterday, but that was yesterday.
He's got Thresh again, so it might be again.
Yeah, he has got Thresh again, so we will have to see.
All right, let's get into this one. The second game of today, it is Team Dignitas EU up against Overclockers UK. Team Dignitas EU looking like one of the strongest teams here in Challenger. Can Overclockers upset them? Kuban on his comfort champions. We'll see if they can take it to Dignitas here. Everyone heading out of their base. Senkook's now on this Yasuo as well. Has found some success over the world. In other places, not so much. Bjergsen's Echo did very well against it, but yeah, Senkook's. This is his salty pick. And he's been playing it a lot in solo queue. He was actually saying he wonders if it's just going to be banned out against him. In this case, not. Take Fun has Gravity Field, so we'll see how it works out, because you E into them and then Gravity Field appears and you're Yasuo.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. As you said, he's been playing it a lot, which normally means it gets banned, as you touched on. But Senkook's, it's open, and we're going to see exactly how it goes. Now, he favored this over the Twisted Fate that he was talking about last week. So Senpai seems to be, again, growing as a player. This is what we were talking about, is he's kind of picking new things up and changing the dynamic of his team week by week. So how will the rest of Team Dignitas cope with this Yasuo pick in the middle lane? Because this is one that they're going to have to kind of force into the composition a bit better. They have to now facilitate the fact that without knockups, he's going to be lacking a fair amount of his damage. So it'll be a tricky one, that's for sure.
Yeah, we'll see. There's a lot to shut him down in fights as well, but we'll see as this game progresses. Libic in the top lane here with the cow, looking for a potential lane swap. There's a lot of wards all over the map just going for the scrimmage so far. Wonderware will find the cow. Cow punches him and gets that gold in the bank. Wonderware will back off, charging up his passive here just with the Flame Spitter so he can get into the danger zone. And looks like a fast push potentially coming in here from Overclockers. Kubon and Kondi-san starting on the top side of the map, going with the buddy system. Obvious and Wonderware will be doing the same from the top side of the map. So again, we're in this meta where everyone likes those lane swaps.
Nisbet is certainly in the danger zone in the lower side jungle himself. As, I say would be in the danger zone. This would be if the Overclockers jungle was starting on the weaker side of the jungle like we saw. So at this point, that Kubon teleporting in there is early enough that it isn't particularly risky, knowing that it's only Corki in lane, but that's the kind of TP 30 seconds later that gets top laners killed. That's when people start to stack up in the bottom lane and start to push. So Kubon will get away with it now. Is ahead in experience and farm now of Rumble, and now the pressure is going to be on Wonderware to get himself back into this game.
Well, Team Dignitas EU with the top laner and jungler are in the bot side of their jungle, so they still have the chance to maybe interrupt Kubon. That being said, Libic is on his way down. Senkux, though, in this mid lane up against Take Fun, getting some harass out. Is equal CS at the moment. Have to track his performance as we get through this one. Libic has found Wonderware and Obvious takes the double Electro Harpoons, followed up with the Flame Spitter from the danger zone. It's a lot of damage early. Obvious and Wonderware trying to take away this blue buff, trying to get this triple buff down. Kondi-san off to the left-hand side. Kubon here to interrupt them, but he's there by himself at the moment. We'll get the stun down onto 3 players in from the parallel convergence, but not before Obvious will go down for first blood over to Kubon. Wonderware turning around with the Flame Spitter, and Kobe is now here to assist. Kondi-san, what does he have? He doesn't have his flash, gets flayed back in. Will body slam away. Valkyrie after him with the Corki, gets him with the fast bomb for the kill. Results in a 1-for-1 overall. Both junglers go down for the count, and now the blue buff will eventually go over to Team Dignitas UK.
Imagine how that's a blast from the past of the UK. Imagine how much more impactful that fight would have been from Team Dignitas if Kobe had been there to begin with. However, the repercussions of this fight, and now that Kobe has double buff, Kubon cannot sit in this lane against 2 people when one of them has double buff, and Libic seems caught.
He's getting chunked down. He doesn't have the flash. He doesn't have the ignite. He has no way to get to safety, and it was just staying out too long, knowing that Dignitas was in his jungle.
At this point, Overclockers have to bring Celebo down to the bottom lane. There is no way that they can allow Kubon to sit in a lane 1 versus 2 in this situation. And you can see exactly, Wonderware teleports top because he knows the situation. Obvious is going to go up there to help him through the next moment or so before Celebo backs away. If Overclockers do not put Celebo bot lane, then they're not. They're sending Kubon to a duo lane with a melee matchup against a Corki and a Thresh who have double buffs on Corki. That is that's a ballsy play.
Good luck with that.
That's gonna take some real skill from Kubon to pull this one off.
Well, he is on the champion that he's strongest with, so if any champion's going to do it, or any player's going to do it, it will be him. 86% over to Team Dignitas EU on the fan vote. Not a bad bet, considering how well they've done in the first week. Libic, angry, punches the ground. Can't quite get in range of Wonderware.
At this situation, Wonderware himself is in kind of a tricky situation because of where Salva had the lane set up for himself, but Obvious coming up earlier has kind of started pushing the wave in towards Overclockers again. Now it's slightly out of the spot Wonderware wants it, but certainly is not an easy setup. But look at the CS difference for Kubon already. Has now had some time in this lane on his own. 26 CS now to 8 from Wonderware, but there is a stack now pushing in towards Wonderware, so he has to just be careful he doesn't shove it back out all that quickly. He is, however, going to take quite a bit of damage when it comes to trading, if Celebat actually starts to land some damage onto him.
Oh, Kuban, the wave is pushing away from him now, so his farming days are done for now. He may head back to base, but he has gone back to base recently, picked up the makings of a phage. Top lane, Wonderwear is looking towards his haunting guys. Obvious looking for a potential gank into the top lane. Will be through the lane here. Or maybe just to support him underneath the tower to allow him to farm, which would be way safer.
So at this point, there's somewhat of a deceptive gold lead coming out for Overclockers. A lot of it is in the farm from the time that Team Dignitas have either spent being in lane and not being able to farm, or the skirmish in the jungle as Celeber just completely farmed himself up. Has a big CS lead for himself from that top lane. Kanzi-san was forced to come down to this bottom lane and kind of babysit Kuban for a while. Kuban's almost out of the woods when it comes to being in lane on his own. You can see they're actually playing this very well of just avoiding the dangerous situation, which they did last week, if you remember, in the matchup Riven versus Rumble, where Kuban's Rumble just kind of avoided Riven at all times and just took himself favorable situations.
It did, but it also meant he was very far behind in terms of farm. This time, not so much. Obvious in the mid lane, parallel convergence. Take Fun is not quite there. Kanzi-san just wanders into the mid lane. There's the knockup as well from Nisbet. The one way he can get into a last breath is available from the roam from Nisbet.
Really nice roam out from Nisbet, and you can see they're going to try and go for Libic as well.
Level 3, the flash into the E. Senkos with the Steel Tempers, lots of damage onto the cow. And with 4 members there, he's easily able to get taken out 4 for 1.
And this is one of the things Team Dignitas have been doing so well, is working as a team. You can see the stats on your screen there. 5.62 as a team KDA, almost double that of Overclockers when it comes to their Week 1 games. And Team Dignitas have just been looking like a well-oiled machine compared to a lot of the other challenger teams.
And despite the game times being very similar between Overclockers and Dignitas EU, in terms of the Dragon and the Barons, as you just saw, 8-4 and 2-0, Team Dignitas have been making better use of their time as well.
Well, Overclockers were the team to have the Barons because their games ran super, super long. Team Dignitas have managed to close out games a lot earlier, I believe.
Well, this week at least.
Yeah, this week at least. So it's kind of a deceptive stat between the two, but Overclockers certainly will be looking to drag this one late game, as this has started out a little bit rougher than they would have liked. However, one saving grace for them, Kuban, still very much so far ahead when it comes to CS up in that top lane.
Yeah, 50. Whoa, Nisbet has been found out by Libic. If Libic had someone behind him, it would have been great, but just means that Nisbet can't just recall wherever he likes.
Thank you, patch 5.12. The adjustments to recalling while being disrupted. Very minor change,
yeah.
but it got normalized to, I believe it's 0.1 second. However, 0.1 seconds all they need top lane.
Now, Wonderwear getting chewed up by the culling from Celeber, knocked right into his line of sight, and will be taken out fairly cut and dry. Libic helping take Fun CS in the mid lane with his Relic Shield. And just giving a little bit of pressure, just meaning Senkox can't just run all over Take Fun in the mid lane.
So this game for Wonderwear is all going to be about teleporting in and using an equalizer, which isn't available yet. So still struggling for experience. I actually just used teleport to get back to top lane, so any kind of dragon fight teleport not going to be available. Kuban will have his about a quarter of the cooldown earlier, as he did use it not too long ago himself.
Yeah, so while there is a gigantic CS differential between the solo laners, Wonderwear has still hit level 6, so his ultimate will still hit pretty hard when it comes to his team fights, as he has now got the Haunting guys. And he also has assisted in a lot of the kills that have been picked up by Team Dignitas EU. Senkox continuing the pressure in the mid lane, only drawing even currently with Take Fun. You can see the gravity field being placed down as well, means that it's harder for Senkox just all in. Also, something we haven't noticed this game is that Senkox has picked up the exhaust on the Yasuo, so looking to lock down big damage threats.
So this is going to make it fairly difficult for Take Fun to kind of all in return. Just put that Chaos Storm down and try and burst down Senkox as he goes in. Also, Senkox is fairly easily able to avoid the gravity field, provided he fights in kind of the opportune place. You can see how much he kind of blocks damage. Ooh, throws down the exhaust very early on.
Oh, flashes the Steel Tempest Tornado though, and Senkox will turn the damage back into Take Fun, but it was all about that knock-up being juked out by Take Fun, so he couldn't get the last breath.
Yeah, and at that point, Senkox even goes in, takes the laser to himself as well as he was going past the wind wall, and Man, Senkox just did not play that situation. That's a very uncharacteristic mistake out of Senkox there to not land what he needed and not be able to take the 1v1. Well played by TakeFun to pretty much just kind of bait Senkox in almost there.
Yeah, it's very rare we see Senkox actually get outplayed in a one-on-one, but I guess if anyone's going to do it, TakeFun, who previously was on these high skill cap assassins where he's got the sick reactions, was able to do it in the mid lane here with the Victor. Has been the first game we've seen of Victor from TakeFun, actually. Obvious now heading into the jungle. Thinking about it, Dragon is up, is 11 minutes into this game, just trying to secure that vision.
Actually, of the position Odo Amne was put in when you look at the H2K game against Fnatic, but Senkox getting dived.
Oh no, gets knocked out of his Sweeping Blade as well. Gets a knock up onto Libic though, might have enough damage, was looking for the crit as he came after the cow, but the cow was too strong. And he did not manage to get taken down. 4-4 is the current scoreline in terms of kills, and Celiva, the top lane is completely open for him to kill.
Overclockers are just using Senkox's aggression against him here in this game. They're making sure that every time he goes in on Yasuo, he's losing a lot for it. That time, lost his life and his flash, so he's going to really struggle to get himself into any kind of engages. Mid lane again, though, Wonderware's caught this time.
The laser does not quite catch up with him in time. It would have definitely been his death for sure there. Obvious backing off. There is a pink ward from Overclockers right deep into that jungle. Obvious looking for his blue buff though, and Kondi-san wants it. He's waiting for it. Sitting over the wall. He's going back.
Doesn't quite have the read on it. Not the precise health, so doesn't want to go in for it. Now Celiva left on his own for a moment against Kobe and Nisbet, but does have his ult, so will clear that away. And honestly, the Team Dignitas comp hasn't really reached its fighting point.
Oh, get over here, Celiva. Nisbet lands yet another hook, laser guided onto Lucian, and takes him up.
I mean, Team Dignitas haven't really found their fighting point too yet until Nisbet grabs himself a hook. Speaking of kind of fighting points, though, there are two now items completed that are fairly crucial on Team Dignitas. Trinity Force on Corki, but in goes Libic.
Let me just hook this guy as well. Libic this time does have a way out of it with the Unbreakable. Well, Kondi-san there doesn't have his ultimate. Kuban looking to follow after, does have his flash, but doesn't want to jump on top of him just yet. Nisbet still had his flay, and they will back away. TakeFun in the mid lane, go back to farming.
Yeah, TakeFun is going to be one of the real big parts here of Overclockers staying in this game. 2-0 right now, is up in CS on Senkox. One of the first times we've seen Senkox down in a lane, and a lot of it is down to TakeFun's reads on the engages that Senkox is going for. Senkox actually has fairly low in-lane kill pressure without just all-inning. He doesn't have Ignite, so it's difficult for him to kind of put TakeFun low, and you can see every time Senkox goes in, he's just getting clipped just by TakeFun walking away and hitting that Q. So Senkox is having to read situations fairly well to actually engage, and he's been 50-50 on them so far.
Yeah, now is also not the time he wants to go and take his TakeFun, just hit level 11, so he has that extra power spike from the second tier ultimate. Top lane though, Obvious, Kobe and Nisbet are here to sweep this one away. Will be their second turret of the game, now 2-0. Despite that, they are actually only just ahead in terms of gold over Overclockers. They have significant CS differentials in the top and mid lane. And now heading into the bot side of the map, there is no dragon, but they'll be taking this blue. Nisbet and Obvious will take this opportunity to secure vision in the top side of the map, though, and take away these pinks. There is still one in their top jungle, though, that they haven't dealt with. Libic is doing the same on the bot side. Wonderware
just had to use his teleport to get to mid lane, because the response for top lane being pushed down by Overclockers was mid-turret. Obvious goes in, though.
He says look out, but he'll have to look out as he jumps back with the chrono break. Wonderware will get knocked into the turret, and Libic is there with the combo. Gets after with the Death Ray, takes him out. And we'll take away the Rumble from this equation. Bot lane, Celiva going with the one-on-one Senkox. Doesn't land the Still Tempers, but just has more damage overall. Eventually with auto attacks, I don't have to aim those. And eventually he'll kill Celiva.
Yeah, Celiva with no mana or no flash. Does no escape from that fight either, as Senkox found him out. That's one positive thing going Team Dignitas' way, but this mid lane scrappy fight where Wonderware just got caught, it's now Kondi-san's time. Whoa, okay, this tower is going down pretty quick.
Tries to get the stun from Kuban with the Equilibrium Strike onto Kabe, but didn't pull the trigger. with the full team. Nisbet likewise landed the hook but didn't go in with the flight underneath that turret. Just felt it was a little too low to go for that fight. And Overclockers will come away with 2 turrets in quick succession, which will even up the turrets and put them ahead in gold now.
Every time I see Nisbet make a hook, I'm always like, oh, someone's about to die.
Someone's gonna die.
So, yeah, Wonderwear getting caught out mid lane. They are struggling so much to get Wonderwear into this game. And they still haven't got him anywhere near a useful point. He's not been able to teleport in for a fight. He's always had to kind of use his teleport either to try and soak up experience or try and prevent a tower going down. And he's only level 9 right now. Needs that level 11 for that added damage on the equalizer and doesn't seem to be getting there anytime soon. Keep in mind when it was Odo Omni that was put behind, it's about the 27-28 minute mark that he actually hit level 11 in that game against Fnatic. So if Wonderwear takes that long to get it, it's going to be problematic.
Another hook onto Libic, and this time he doesn't have the Unbreakable Will, but a good disengage by Condisan with the Explosive Casting, and also will slow the rest of the assault down with the barrel roll. Celever there just to apply some suppressing fire, allow his support to get away.
But the Dragon is up in 5 seconds, and Team Dignitas will look to add their second of the game. They'll trade it for a top tower, though, so they look like they want to even the tower exchange up before the Dragon even happens.
And there's one, and there comes the trades in the middle lane. There we go, 3-3 currently. All the outer turrets are down in this game on Summoner's Rift. Top lane Kuban is continuing up with the push. He has the teleport, whereas Wonderwear does not. And the ping has gone towards it, so it looks like Wonderwear will be going up there to try and disrupt Kuban. Meanwhile, Team Dignitas EU are actually taking the Dragon as well. It's a question of whether Overclockers can punish these 2 members who've gone into the top lane. They're going to try and do so. Kuban's already dropping low, though. We'll have to flash away. We'll get the heal up. Senkook comes in with the last breath, turned around the wind wall, but Kuban somehow survives, and Senkook does not. Wonderwear was also able to get away. While all that happened, Dignitas were able to get the Dragon.
Man, that knockup is so difficult to get exactly right for Senkook. That's the second time it hasn't landed flush and hasn't been able to get the target he wants. He kind of just, at that point, had to go in on whatever was knocked up, just go in and try and take out anything. And Kuban walks away from the fight. This time, Wonderwear survived for himself as well, so it wasn't the end of the world, but certainly Senkook is having a rough game when it comes to taking anything more than even trades.
Let's take a look at that one just again, as these 2 members were caught in the top lane.
Yeah, so Equalizer comes out, gets damage down onto Kuban, but here you can see Overclockers coming back into the fight. Oh, the heal from Celever and the sidestep out from Kuban as Senkook just couldn't quite connect that last auto before the Steel Tempest came out.
Well, still, if you take a step back and look what that meant for Overclockers, they committed 5 people to basically best case scenario get 2 kills, as they already had the top turret from Kuban and basically just bail him out as well. Any way that worked out, they were going to lose the Dragon. So that's now the second Dragon going over to Team Dignitas. So Overclockers have to be a little wary of that as this game progresses, because then Dignitas can start playing around those Dragons.
They have to be wary, but they still have the gold lead. They still have significant leads in CS top and mid lane right now. This isn't the same situation we saw in the last game for Victor. This time, he's well on the way to getting into this game faster. Yes, he does have that Morellonomicon and the Hex Core Mark II, but right now, Senkook is struggling himself. He's got the Static Shiv. He's working towards the Blade of the Ruined King. Nowhere near building a lot of extra crit right now that you do see sometimes coming out from Yasuo. So Senkook's, I don't know whether he can take this against Kuban. We're gonna find out.
I'm gonna go with no. We have the Transcendent Blades coming out. He just get the knockup, but this is the stage in the game where he just wants to run away from that CC and not follow up with the last breath.
I really don't think that's a fight he can take, and you can see Kuban very intelligently read the rest of Team Dignitas were coming down because he knows Senkook doesn't want that fight. So clearly there's a reason he's taking it and used his exhaust on it. Meanwhile, top side of the map, Team Dignitas committed so much bottom side that Overclockers will get another turret for themselves. They're in a great position for this game.
Yeah, Team Dignitas EU as well respawned a little too late, so they lose that turret. And often what can stall out teams is getting those outer rings of turrets and then never being able to push in for the inner turrets because of the wave clear. But Team Dignitas EU do not necessarily have a lot of wave clear. Also, they were late to the party, which helped a lot.
This is a very similar situation to Game 1. Oh, no. Cobby.
Well, He's going to try and ride away on Earth and will get assisted. But the flash forward from Take Fun with the Siphon Power also uses the ultimate in with the Death Ray. He's following after with the Chaos Storm, but it slows down the further it gets away from you, so he isn't able to chase down the Corki as he is flying on a flying Earth, so it's a little bit faster than the Chaos Storm.
A lot used by Overclockers. The flash and the 2 ults in exchange for 2 summoner spells from Corki. So if Kobe gets caught out, that could still end up in Overclocker's favor, but certainly kind of reduces the potency of Take Fun and Kanzi-san until their ultimates are available. But they are fairly short cooldowns, so it doesn't really matter all that much. But honestly, I feel like this is such a similar situation for Overclockers as Denial were in last game. You look at the Aurelia, nobody can duel her at this situation. Nobody can sit in a lane against her. Team Dignitas are really going to struggle wave clearing. Senkux is, even though he has a static Shiv, needs to have the 3rd proc of Steel Tempest to really clear waves out. Either that or he puts himself in the middle of the wave, and that is a very dangerous situation to be in. So Team Dignitas are going to have to struggle through a very tough time where Overclockers can look to push down turrets somewhat quick.
Yeah, these things, a couple of minutes are going to be a little difficult for them. Got the recall coming in from Obvious. Let's take a look at some of the items. Top lane Kubon did complete his Trinity Force a while ago. Is now opting towards the Hex Drinker, perhaps looking for these 1v1s against Wonderwear. I mean that he'll win almost every time now. Mid lane, still that CS advantage over Senkux that Take Fun has. He's got that Hex Core starting to be charged up and built up. Also has an easily large rod here as well. We'll be going towards that item spike. Last game we saw the Victor not quite able to get there. This time should be able to accelerate his way towards it with the farm he's been getting. Yeah,
should be able to. He is up in CS still, 30 CS as you said. Top lane is the biggest CS disparity actually between the two. 1,400 gold difference. Leandri's Torment has been completed first on Rumble. That's not something you see all that often. You see the Haunting Guys, and a lot of the time it's just kind of left as a Haunting Guys. But Leandri's going to try and burn through some of the extra health that Overclockers have. I wonder whether it was all that necessary. Really? That's what I was going to say. Only really Kanzi-san has a lot of health sat on top of him, so... Itemization, we'll see whether it works out. Again, Kobe, sorry, not Kobe, Wonderwear is playing for team fights now, so that added tick damage on top of the equalizer is going to help, because it will be a flat amount.
Well, you can always count on Nisbet landing a hook. Kanzi-san will have to flash away here. The last breath has already been used. Libic is kiting away here. There comes the equalizer, comes right down on top of Kanzi-san. Take Fun is trying to get away, gets the extra movement speed from the Siphon Power, and follows up with the rockets. And Obvious is juking sideways. Take Fun should not be able to take anyone away with him. Or maybe he will. He'll just kill Nisbet with the extra burst at the end there. Kubon is taking this time to take the top turret and is already on the inhib. Has to wait a while for this mini wave to come in. But the mid lane, Libic and Celiva are pushing in the middle. And that meant that Wonderwear has had to react. Kobe has also made his way back to the base. They should be able to defend these inhibitor turrets. That means the 3rd dragon of the game will go over to Dignitas, but at what cost?
I mean, it was a question of what do you give away for a handful of kills there. You can see Overclockers give away 2. They get 2 turrets for themselves, but that's a 3rd dragon going over to Team Dignitas. So overall, Overclockers make a very stoic decision to just stand their ground and take the objectives in the lanes that they were looking for. So Team Dignitas right now looking maybe for a 5 dragons situation to close this game out, which is still 12 minutes away, but is the 12 minutes certainly isn't going to be all that difficult for them to sit in their base for. All they have to do is make sure nobody dies to Kubon, and the rest really they should be able to clear out with Corki. There's no real 1-3-1 setup coming out from Overclockers. There's not all that much they can do in other lanes.
You say stoic, but is that brave or dumb? I feel like Team Dignitas here have been playing it pretty smart, playing around these dragons, because that is something that will help them later on into this game. Bot lane as well, Kobe 3-0 and 2, just generally having a good game. Had the Trinity Force and the Blade of Ruin King now, 2 Blade of Ruin Kings on this team. It seems like the entire team is looking to chunk down a large amount of health that Overclockers don't seem to have right now.
I mean, you say Team Dignitas are playing this smart. I don't disagree. They are focusing on the objectives that certainly favor their team composition, but so are Overclockers. They know that nobody is going to be able to take on Kubon, and they're working alongside that very effectively. It will reach a point as we hit the fifth dragon, where that becomes a less effective strategy because you have to physically compete over the dragon. But for this point in the game, Overclockers have played this out to their strengths and have themselves a good lead because of it. And this is still a game that Overclockers should feel comfortable that they can close out here, provided they don't give too much away to Team Dignitas. Look at this bottom lane. Kuban just goes in, takes on Wonderwear. As long as he's not under his turret, Kuban can take this, but that becomes the problematic area, is Kuban cannot push under the turret to get Wonderwear if he's full health.
Yeah, we actually haven't seen Kuban in a one-on-one for a while, and we kind of forgot how strong he was in a one-on-one. And now Wonderwear is remembering. It's obvious now at this Baron Pit, ward over the wall. A lot of vision from both of these teams to try and secure that, mainly from Dignitas EU right now, as some of that has been cleared out by those pinks. Kondi-san will try to get some in return, ward over the wall, but that has been seen out again by that pink. Overclockers just on the top side of the map right now, still itemizing their way up. Has a little bit of magic resist from the Warden's Mails, a little bit of armor from the Warden's Mail, and some magic resist from the Mercs and Hex Drinkers. Senkuk's mid lane farming up, 3-3 into this game. Yasuo has kind of been hit and miss as a pick. Haven't seen a whole lot of play from that, but yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think it's been quite as standout as Senkuk's would have liked it to, for certain. Normally, you'd expect him to want to be 10-0 at this point. Unfortunately, that hasn't been the case for him. Overclockers have put good prioritization on him. And they've also prioritized Wonderwear very hardly. You can see, or very hard, you can see Kuban going on to Wonderwear. I want to quickly loop back to the itemization that we were talking about with Wonderwear. Now got himself Home Guard on top of the Liandry's, looking for the Zhonya's. Once he gets Zhonya's, that's going to pair in team fights fairly decently alongside the Liandry's. The point I wanted to make earlier before a fight broke out is it's going to be a consistent amount of damage done by that Liandry's. So while Wonderwear's overall damage is fairly low, at least it's going to be reliable from that equalizer as long as it hits.
As long as it hits, that's the key part of that one. But over objectives, Overclockers have not been fighting, which has meant that Wonderwear's effectiveness has gone down a significant amount. This Dragon is, or rather this Baron is still a thing that may be fought over the next couple minutes. Dragon is now 2 minutes on the clock for the teams to potentially fight over. Whether Overclockers will just gift over another Dragon, they'll have to take a lot for it, but this time they've pushed all the way up into those inhibitor turrets, so if they do take objectives for it, they'll be taking some pretty significant ones in the form of those base objectives. Senkuk's and Kobe in the mid lane take from there to clear out the wave. So far it's just a waiting game until these objectives for both of these teams.
I always find it interesting when a player buys an item and refunds it, and then makes a different decision. Kuban just did it with a Frozen Heart, and he swapped it out for a Randuin's Omen. Just wants that extra health. He's up against Double Blade of the Rune King and Liandry's, so needs to just kind of sit there for longer. It's a tough one because it won't do all that much against it. So it really, Kuban is looking for the 1v1, which is another situation where the Randuin's Omen is going to be fairly helpful when it comes to that added health. But I don't know how many times he's going to be sat 1v1 against somebody that's doing AD. So you can see he even himself had to kind of flip-flop on what he wanted.
Maybe it's like chaining rooms, right? Like you just have to try it on and see if it fits well.
See if the Randuin's fits.
Oh, Kuban in this 1-on-2 in the bottom lane, going on to Kobe, has the Transcendent Blades, dashes after with the Blaze Surge as well, but while this time's all going on, Obvious is wailing down on him. Kobe comes in with a pretty unnecessary flash at the end, but does get the kill eventually. This, with 2 members committed in the bottom lane, means that Overclockers go into this Baron. The flash comes away from Celebra's. Lisbeth was lining up the perfect hook, and that equalizer has now shown its value in stopping Overclockers pretty single-handedly. Yeah,
clear show of force there out of Team Dignitas, saying that, hey, look, you might be ahead. We may have committed our jungler down to the bottom side of the map, but we can still stop you from making a Baron call at this point. They didn't have all that much damage, but go all the way back to that 2 versus 1. Kuban had great damage down onto Kobe, but it was the reveal of Obvious that really just made him think twice, and that's going to be problematic for Kuban because now Team Dignitas are playing around the split-pushing Irelia. And if Irelia can't sit 1v1, there's almost no way to get her into the game properly.
Well, this is the 4th Dragon now going over to Team Dignitas EU, but the teleport coming in from Kuban. Overclockers are going to try and burst down this Baron before the reaction comes in from Dignitas, but I don't think they're killing it fast enough before Team Dignitas close in.
Not. No, Team Dignitas are going to get here. Senkux already has his Q charged.
Livic already chunked, and there comes the death sentence, and it will be his death sentence. Kondi-san now comes in with a knockback onto Obvious and Senkux, but there comes the double kill for Kobe. He's chunked himself. He'll have to back away. That's a very rare missed hook from this bet. Doesn't quite get that one in the heat of the battle, but a 2-0 over to Team Dignitas will once again deter Overclockers from the Baron.
But again, Overclockers have given a Dragon over to Team Dignitas, thinking they could take the Baron for themselves, but they misread the situation, and it goes horribly, horribly wrong for them. You can see they even used a teleport to get Kubon into this Baron pit in time. Great knockback from Konzi-san into the ultimate, but from this point, it's just too far gone. Kabi has too much damage, and Kubon isn't willing to commit to a fight because of the numbers advantage for Team Dignitas. To begin this fight as well, Livic was even low health. There was no real way for Overclockers to take a fight there. They misread how much time it would take.
Misreads all over the board, and Overclockers, now it feels like their decisions are starting to catch up with them.
Yes.
We've seen this type of situation before where teams have traded away objectives and firms with turrets plus kills over 4 dragons, and then they haven't closed out the game fast enough, and this is exactly what's happening right here.
So you brought up the point earlier about how Team Dignitas were playing this smartly, and I kind of came back with Overclockers are playing to their strengths.
Yeah.
The problem is their strengths have dwindled significantly. When we had that discussion, the tower count was 4 towers for Dignitas to 5 towers to Overclockers, and it remains the same. Really, all Dignitas have done has just been getting picks because Overclockers haven't been able to push down anything because Team Dignitas have just played around the split of Overclockers very well. So really just Overclockers have slowed down. Team Dignitas have picked their fights better again, and now they're at a tipping point. They have 4 dragons already in the bank. Overclockers can never take that away from them, and it means every dragon that is going to follow, Overclockers have to fight over.
And Overclockers may just try and force out a fight here. They do not start off the Baron, but they are taking all the vision around it. Top lane will have to be pushed out by Overclockers while they have this position. Team Dignitas EU, meanwhile, pushing in the mid lane with Senkux. Doesn't have a fast way into the fight, though. Everyone's being chased down by Kubon, leading a charge and taking point. Senkux now coming in from the top side, looking for a knock-up. Parallel Convergence looking to come down. Does not quite get the stun, but they do go for the fight regardless. Livic and Kondi-san, the tanks are getting shredded down, and now Kubon comes into the fight, but he hasn't found a good target to latch onto just yet. Kobe is there to deal the damage, and everyone is there to protect him as well. Wonderwear comes in with the Zhonya's. All Sullivan wanted was a kill, but he's not going to get it for Christmas. 4-0. Takefun will get away with his life, but very low. And now the Baron, all that Overclockers wanted will be taken away from them, and Team Dignitas get it.
Yeah, Overclockers just trying to force things too quickly, and there's no real way of them engaging on this Team Dignitas lineup from how mobile they are and their ability to kite back. They would rely on an Alistar flank that they haven't been able to set up consistently in this game at all.
And this is demonstrating more strengths from Team Dignitas EU. We know they are strong in lane, we know they have strong mechanics, we know each player can now hold their own, but now we're seeing late game decision making when behind and comeback mechanics, because right now they seem to be ticking every single box that would be a strong team.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. They seem to have a fairly well-rounded formula. They had a tough beginning of this game against Overclockers. Overclockers had the lead, and Team Dignitas have found the resolve, and that's something fairly rare that we don't see all that often. That is quite a sizable Echo with the Elixir of Iron currently on himself. He certainly is lumbering around the river. That caught me off guard. I was like, he's not normally that big.
Yeah, he's been eating well. But yeah, it's interesting because when you look at the LCS teams, Crepo actually identified triple threat, shot calling, and synergy between jungler and support as like the 3 factors which make a top tier team. Dignitas EU have definitely shown shot calling from this game. They're showing triple threat, Wonderwear, Senkux, Kobe looking strong, Obvious even from the jungle as well. What we haven't seen a whole lot of is Nisbet and Obvious roaming around, but Nisbet is very good and has been landing a lot of hooks in this game. So they're pretty, they seem to be showing a lot of the criteria that would make them a solid LCS team if they get there. Right now they are currently on track. If you remember, the first spot from playoffs coming out of Challenger will get the automatic promotion to the LCS, and then the 10th place from LCS will move down into Challenger. Of course, they still have to get there, but this is a very good start. A win here would mean they are 4-0 out of the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, it would mean quite a lot to Team Dignitas right now to be 4-0. That is a far cry from what they were at the beginning of Spring Split. But honestly, I want to talk Overclockers because I don't actually think they've looked particularly bad in most of this game. I actually think they've fixed a lot of the issues that they've had over previous weeks. The problem was with this strategy, it is so hard to close the game out once you have a lead if the enemy team plays around the split push, and that is exactly what Team Dignitas have done. Now Overclockers are forced into this fight. Tower goes down first. They've actually got Team Dignitas a little bit split up here, but so are Overclockers.
Takefun has been called out. Condi-san has found Copy as well. Libic was trying to cut him off, but doesn't get there in time. Messes up the combo. Nisbet will flash over the wall back to his team to regroup. And Takefun was taken out. Kubon tries to get onto the carries, but again, the face of the mountain and an appeal from Dignitas is way too good. There's the equalizer tagging the cow, and Libic will be taken out. Uses a jumping post for Senku to get in range of his carries. Gets a knockout with Still Tempers. Condi-san is the only remaining member, and Wonderwell will use the teleport to cut off his escape route. A 5-4-0, and Dignitas come in for the kill.
A great team fight again out of Team Dignitas. They were split up in that engage, but Overclockers, as you said, just couldn't get in position. Another great game out of Team Dignitas to close, but it was a tough fought game for the first 20 minutes. Overclockers certainly had a good lead for themselves.
Team Dignitas taking down the Nexus turrets and looking for that Nexus itself. This will be the 2-0 in this week. They are now 4-0 in the Challenger split, in the Summer split.
Really solid finish to that game from Team Dignitas, and it showed us that they can fight back with decision-making, which, when you look at the Spring roster, they would have to fight back with mechanical ability. This time, it's team play that actually brings them back into it, getting the Dragons, getting the good fight at Overclockers, kind of deciding to do the Baron. That was a really rough call by Overclockers to look for a Baron when you didn't really have the time to do it. It was a 50-50 call. If they had more damage on that, and could clear it faster, if they had the likes of a Tristana maybe that's going to be able to output more damage, maybe they could have done it, but certainly not with that setup.
But that being said, Overclockers did not look bad throughout a lot of that game. You mentioned it yourself, and I think moving forward, heading a lot of other teams, if they play like that, they can definitely pick up victories as we head through the rest of the weeks. But yes, it definitely stalled out towards the end, and as soon as that happened, Dignitas's superior shot calling came through, so definitely difficult for them. I would just like to see Overclockers face more teams, honestly.
Yes, I would as well. I think that they're gradually kind of working through a lot of the issues that they have. I think they're probably on track to squeak into playoffs, perhaps. I think the series that really is going to kind of mean a lot for them is the Ex-Nihilo series. If they get the wins there, then they should be just about in a position to get playoffs, but certainly that's a couple of weeks away.
That's true. And Ex-Nihilo have a lot of room to grow between now and then as well. But we are going to take a look at one of the replays from that game. It is Team Dignitas fighting around River, around the 25-minute mark with the Rumble TP.
What do you know? A hook to begin this one off for Kanzi-san, but this was the only thing Rumble could really do at this point. You can remember how far behind he was. Equalizer goes down, just tags for an assist here or there, and they just kind of all in on Takefun at this point. And okay, maybe Team Dignitas didn't have the cleanest setup here. They do, in fact, lose Nisbeth at the same time. But from this, they get another Dragon. They continue just keeping their overall objective goals just completely on track for all of those Dragons. Got themselves a 5-Dragon win.
Yeah, well, we talk about him a lot, but Senkuk's on the Yasuo. It was a different pick coming in with the 70% kill participation in this game. Also had the 6, 3, and 8, I mean to say, with the 308 CS. Did pretty well in this game. I wasn't blown away by the pick, I've got to say.
No.
It was good, but it wasn't a Nazir from Senkuk, because it wasn't even a Victor back when we saw him play it a lot.
Finally, it actually feels fairly nice. This is going to sound a little bit, I guess, cold-hearted to have a game where we're not like, Senkuk's won that game alone, which is what from Spring, certainly there were a few times on that. But again, solid performance, tricky matchup, difficult to play. Senkuk's trying something a little bit different for himself, still trying to widen his experience as a player. And, you know, he's he's still a very young player in League of Legends. He's only just going to be eligible for playoffs when it comes around to it. So that's a really interesting one, player to keep track of. But certainly, the SOO, I wasn't convinced.
Yeah, I'd like to see him refine it and come back a bit later. Because he's seen some play around the world and had some success, but yeah, a little more practice on it might yield better results.
Oh, that's sorry. That sounded a little bit. I took that probably more harsh than you meant, Dad.
On that note, with that win, we're only one game away from rounding out week 2. So stay tuned. We'll be back right after this.